Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very interesting story. James Okeef is going to sue Twitter, and he should. And the really interesting, what's really so intriguing about this is that Twitter basically allows fake accounts. They allowed it with Correct the Record, which was literally an operation that was conducted, a public relations cyber operation that was conducted by Democrats or people linked to Hillary Clinton in 2016 to fabricate and create different accounts that didn't really exist, just that were created for the sole purpose of going against and insulting and demeaning and arguing with left-leaning voters like Bernie Sanders supporters and conservatives who didn't like Clinton. So, Correct the Record, and there's a Los Angeles Times article that I will put below. One of the what was his name? David Brock created this, and Twitter allowed it. That was just fine with Twitter, and it was like publicized endlessly. I'll give you the Los Angeles Times article below. There were fake accounts that Democrats literally paid to create and had people just write messages from those, accounts that don't really belong to anyone, but were just created to go after political adversaries on Twitter. Okay? So I'll read you. James Okeef, Project Veritas founder Okeef, says he'll sue Twitter for accusing him of having fake accounts. This is Newsweek. Fox News, James Okeef vows to sue Twitter for defamation after ban for alleged use of fake accounts. So they obviously banned him almost certainly because of his expose and his breakthrough recordings with CNN. Then it's interesting. The actual words of CNN staffers, CNN brass, the top decision makers, the people who run CNN, he's recorded, like Veritas and Okeef have recorded all of these people. They've all stated they're pulling for one political side. They wanted to prop up Biden, and they wanted to undermine and make sure Trump lost. These are their words, essentially. And there's no outrage on the left. Of course not. There's no discussion of, the dangers of misinformation or fake news. There's no, you can look right now. I did segments on this. The bounties, the Russian bounties, that never happened. That was completely fabricated by the intel agencies. That's why Biden never sanctioned Russia on that account, because of the bounties. Furthermore, the notion of keeping Americans there indefinitely, which is what the Lincoln Project, disgraced Lincoln Project wanted, the Democratic Party wanted, Hillary Clinton wanted, Biden would have advocated for, were it not for Trump. It was President Trump. The reason I voted for Trump, one of the main reasons, and one of the main reasons he was a great president. In terms of accomplishments, he was a fantastic president. He had more accomplishments than President Obama and Bush combined. Okay, being the first president to step foot in North Korea, Abraham Accords, those two accomplishments right then and there, and setting a date to get us out of our longest-running counterinsurgency quagmire in the history of this country, May 1st, 2021, which Biden extended to September for some unknown reason. Those three accomplishments are more important than anything that was done in terms of foreign policy during the Bush administration, which is absolutely horrendous in every way possible, or President Obama's administration, which presided over a failed NATO intervention that caused Libya to become a failed state. And so hit subscribe to this channel right now if you want to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, The Daily Caller, other publications. Go to hagoodman.com. You could see my debates there. And if you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated, ladies and gentlemen. But Twitter doesn't have the same rules for conservatives as they do for liberals or progressives. Actually, Twitter is very much like the CNN or the Washington Post, New York Times of cyberspace. They will look at the far left. They're different. Okay, the far left that will always vote blue no matter who, they're okay with. The Bernie Sanders type people, they're not so much okay with. Conservatives forget about it. Republicans forget about it. People who support President Trump forget about it. It's let's put it this way. Thankfully, my Twitter impersonator is no longer impersonating me, or hasn't posted nonsense in a long, long time. Everybody at Twitter knows that I've had an impersonator for a long time. If I had a blue check mark and I was a left-leaning journalist, and instead of having written and had my articles go viral with a stamp of approval from all the editors at Salon and the Huffington Post and The Hill and other publications, when I was on the left, and now being more conservative or a supporter of President Trump, actually, there's nothing. You would think that wanting Americans home is a liberal thing. So what drives me is I want Americans home from never-ending wars. So that's something that I think, used to be a liberal position or vantage point. But anyway, if I had a blue check mark, oh my God, it would have been taken care of for, instantly. There's always a double standard. You can spread a Steele dossier. The Steele dossier was complete rubbish, fake news, nonsense, garbage. It was not there was nothing truthful about it. It was used by the United States government, but that should tell you how they tried to railroad Trump right after they railroaded Bernie Sanders. The Steele dossier was never suppressed by Twitter, but the New York Post story on Hunter Biden's legitimate, genuine, authentic emails were. Okay, there's no doubt that those are his emails. He doesn't even really deny it. Biden's campaign never denied it. They've never denied that those were his emails outright. Pay-to-play schemes. How can you use your influence on behalf of the company? You have foreign millionaires, business people asking Hunter Biden to use his influence on behalf of their company. Meetings that are brokered. Meetings that were brokered by Biden's son, specifically to utilize. That's not nepotism. That's pay to play. If Jared Kushner or Ivanka Trump or Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr. brokered deals to help Mike Pence to enable Mike Pence to meet wealthy individuals from around the world and strike deals, business deals, it would be front page news. That is exactly what Biden's son did. They've swept it under the rug, and Twitter allows this to take place. There are double standards. So they went after James Okeef. They permanently banned James Okeef. Why? Because he actually does the work, the journalism that they wish they did. So you have Okeef, who is recording CNN people in admitting to trying to influence the outcome of 2020, admitting to pumping propaganda and negativity and blaming Trump for everything, and giving this fake news and giving this spin. And Democrats love to feel morally superior, but part of it's like a morality fetish. They don't really care about good or evil. They don't care about doing right or justice or truth. They care about feeling as if they're doing such things. And the interesting thing is they look at the world from the vantage point as, well, if CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, the New York Times, if they're saying everything I believe, what's the problem? I mean, if anything, that makes me even, that proves my moral superiority. It's like, no, you have it the other way around. See, you are actually taking a vantage point that is irrational, and it's being bolstered by almost all of media. So 92% negative media coverage blaming one person for the pandemic while they ignored all the people who did make horrendous decisions. Like, there was nothing that Trump did that could even possibly equate to what Andrew Cuomo did in New York, putting infected people into elderly care facilities. 15,000 lives lost directly because of Andrew Cuomo's decision-making. Even Democrats are saying that. Even Democrats are saying that in New York. There's nothing that Trump did where you could say directly these people lost their lives. He basically allowed every state to decide how they were going to handle the pandemic. And then the media said it's all his fault, it's under his watch, it's all his fault. It wasn't his fault. The Democratic-run states of this country, with Democratic governors, have the worst outcomes. Blue states had the worst outcomes. And they had the most draconian policies, and they still do. That is a fact. They have the worst outcomes. Fact. Go to the New York Times statistics. 7 of the top 11 states with the greatest number of lives lost, and the top 4 highest per capita rates are Democratic-run states, with New York and New Jersey leading. And God bless the people of New York and New Jersey, but they have Cuomo and Phil Murphy are the two worst governors in this country. They deserve better than Cuomo and Phil Murphy. But what James Okeef and others, Andy, know, what they do is they look at the left, they judge the left by the standards, utilizing the standards by which the left judges Trump. And if you utilize those standards, you see that Democrats, media in general, get away with a lot more. They cover up a lot more. They're able to tip the scales a lot more. Twitter does not utilize. Twitter is a cyber reality. It's Tron for apoplectic, morally superior liberal Democrats. It's the worst place on the planet. If you have a Twitter, I told people I haven't had a Twitter account for 3 years. I haven't had a Facebook account for 3 years. I told people 3 years ago, delete your Twitter account. And it's going to be the MySpace of political media eventually. Twitter is a place where bad ideas get amplified by people who ordinarily wouldn't have their ideas amplified in any other forum. And it is a place run by liberals, so I don't think there's many Make America Great Again hats among Twitter executives or Facebook executives, okay? That should tell you something. Like Democrats have the smallest majority in decades. Well, historically, one of the smallest majorities in Congress. Okay, the pollsters were all wrong, but they have the Oval Office, they have Congress. What are they getting done? You have a crisis taking place. What are they getting done? Numerous crises taking place. And they're going to lose their majority in 2022 with Trump Republicans taking over. But if you don't have every conceivable possible advantage, how many lies were told about Trump that were spread through Twitter? He worked with Russia. Steele dossier. How many insults were allowed to be kept up? How many threatening statements were allowed to be kept up against Republicans or Trump supporters or Trump? You compare the way that they handle things. It's a complete double standard. A complete and utter double standard. Nobody's banned. There are Hollywood celebrities who've said the most horrendous, disgusting, despicable things against Trump and just in general. And they're never banned. And they're never really suspended. And I mean, it's just, you can look and Twitter policies and guidelines are broken all the time by the left. Twitter doesn't care. It's a double standard. And what they're doing with James Okeef is they can't get him. He basically exposed and showed the world what CNN was all about. We already knew, but it's within their words. That the truth about Democrats or the public relations monstrosity that's propping up the Democratic Party. I mean, could you imagine like Jimmy Kimmel's producers recorded by James Okeef? Or like, oh, well, we saw the DNC emails, which were a Russian plot. Or, you know, the next Hollywood director who can't stand Republicans or Trump, or the Intel operatives, what their true thoughts are. And so whether it's the DNC emails or James Okeef recordings, it's like whatever, or Hunter Biden's emails, the truth about them, what they write, what they say, what they believe in, is viewed with shame. They're embarrassed. They're ashamed of their true intentions. And when their intentions are out in the open, it's quick. Ban James Okeef. Okeef. Ban. Blame Russia. Blame Russia for the DNC email. So anyway, give me your thoughts below. You know what I'm trying to tell you. He should sue Twitter. And hopefully he wins. I think he will, because they're saying that he utilized fake accounts. That's what Democrats do all the time. That's what left-leaning journalists do. Oftentimes, they'll have their account, like on the far left, they'll have their account and they'll have other accounts. And they go after people, and they get this thrill insulting others, especially on the left, with fake accounts. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now.